Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the TechIT Podcast. It is July 3rd of 2021 in the year of our Lord, and today we have quite a bit of coverage yet again. So please feel free to share, like, or whatever's possible on the platforms that we have this on, such as SoundCloud and YouTube. And today, I am your host, Gregory, and I am here with my friend Mike. Mike, how you doing today?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for starting us off there. What have you been up to this week? Anything fun? Anything exciting for the fourth?
I got a few plans in mind with one of my aunts is planning something, and also I have a friend in the countryside of Ohio that might be planning something also. So I have to kind of pick and choose, so to speak, on what would be the best idea for 4th of July to just have it be safe, but also just fun to attend. How about you?
Sounds good, man. That sounds exciting. I am probably gonna try and spend some time with the fam. You know, down here in Florida, we're just got a bunch of family down here, so we might go visit some of them. And I'm pretty excited because they always have fireworks over the bay. So we're probably gonna hang out and just watch some fireworks. So I'm excited about that.
Definitely.
Should we go and jump into tech news?
Yep. So the first story I
Cool.
got is regarding a follow-up on the SolarWinds attack that happened over 2 years ago. And if you want to follow up on this story and others that I have today, most of them are going to be sourced from theverge.com. That is the THE Verge, VERGE.com. So, if you want to learn more again about the SolarWinds attack, you can watch our first podcast where we talk about it a bit further. But essentially, it attacked a lot of people, a lot of different sources and organizations, such as those involved are just tied with the SolarWinds company, which go as far as the Department of Justice, which people such as my former professor, Dr. Pratim Datta, did a piece about on his case study that you can find on Amazon.com or smile.amazon.com if you want to give to a charity of your choice.
So this attack was focused on what how it affected
Yes.
Microsoft, right?
For Microsoft source, yeah.
So it was Microsoft. Yeah. So um, how do you think this affects Microsoft's like upcoming like features in the new version of Windows 11?
I think it puts a lot into consideration and to be concerned about if I was them, as they just did their panel just in June, launching and giving more details about what Windows 11 is all about and how it's going to be free, which we'll get into a bit later on what Windows 11 was or told at this panel. So at the same time, they did say that the hackers in this attack 2 years ago, they used the info gleaned from the tools to start highly targeted attacks on specific Microsoft customers, as the attack was part of a larger Nobelium campaign largely focused on IT companies and governments throughout the world, which charges the burning question as to who did this, with names thrown out there from Russia, who's probably in the lead right now in terms of cybercrime, and as well as China and Iran as potential countries of interest as to who did this. With, but if I were to say who it was myself personally, I would say it was probably Russia.
I think that's a fair statement. Of course, until they clarify that we can't seriously accuse them of anything. But let's get back to the highly targeted attacks on Microsoft customers. And this attack, it's highly targeted on Microsoft customers. What can we do to fight off these kind of attacks in the future? Like, what do you think their future plans are or what our future plans should contain when we're fighting focused attacks like this.
Well, one aspect would be to just employ least privilege principles at companies, as well as not trusting third-party companies with connections within the company. Just give them in immediately without highly scrutinized security clearance and focus as to what's allowed in your company, especially when it has assets with labels such as being involved with the government. So,
Hmm. I agree. I'm on the same page with that because I think that was the biggest thing. Like, they kept contracting their work out to different companies and different people, and at the end of the day, like they probably didn't even know where it came from. So that's probably the smartest way to go about things.
which poses its potential on how Windows 11 can take this into hard in consideration, as 0-day attacks are still a thing where right as soon as something's released, they might have missed something and hackers could have potentially already used and taken and exploited that opportunity.
Yep. Let's go and move right into the McAfee story. Um, I'm sure a lot of people already heard this, but McAfee was found dead in a Spanish jail. Um, what are your thoughts on this? What are your suspicions here?
Because he was a mind of his own time, as well as a very, very, let's say, eccentric personality, as he went from building up his own commercial antivirus software after working for such companies as Xerox, Lockheed Martin, and NASA in 1987, which is quite the resume to have compared to, I don't know, someone just starting out in college. So, right down on paper, you'd think that this guy's a very sophisticated person and with the focus towards what he likes and enjoys in his interests, be it work or just being involved in business. But for those that don't know Mr. John McAfee, I encourage you to watch this documentary done by Mr. Jay Aubrey on YouTube.com that goes into detail on what this guy was all about. But essentially, he went from being a tech mogul to selling his life story for a supposed $13 million, as well as running away from the United States while evading taxes. Or, as someone put it, he willfully failed to return and file tax returns. That he evaded tax liabilities by concealing assets and directing his income to bank accounts and cryptocurrency exchange accounts in the names of nominees, not himself. So, as that transpired, he got into some misdealings. And yeah, it was in September of 2020 that he finally got arrested in by some Spanish authorities. And just probably less than 2-3 weeks ago from the time we're recording this, that he was found dead in the prison cell, which has a lot of people concerned as to, you know,
Who's at fault? I think that's because like he tweeted out that I'm content in here. I have friends. The food is good. All is well. Know that if I hang myself, it will be no fault of mine, or something to that. Um, I when I first read this, I was thinking that finally someone caught up to him, someone from his past that may have had grief with something he did, because he was uh didn't he take part in like a pump and dump for his crypto?
yes. So for those that
So
don't
there
know,
could
yeah,
be there could be uh mixed feelings between people. Some people probably lost a lot of money. So I was thinking maybe someone cut off to him from that and, you know, made it look like a suicide. But you had a different point of view on that. What were you thinking? Excuse me. What was your thoughts?
I have people in my circle that think that he's actually not dead and that he's on the run somewhere, and he's just waiting for his cryptocurrency to build up again. And with the volatile nature of cryptocurrency, when someone tweeting something can make it go up and down by a lot,
Yeah,
or let's say
I hear you.
someone
It's very
connection with that,
volatile.
just to get his cryptocurrency, which is ironically called whacked, spelled $WACK, well, WACKD, which is ironic again because whacked is another term for getting uh, killed, essentially.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of theories going around out there, but I'll let you all
So you,
decide on as to where it
so
could be.
so what you're saying is there's a possibility that he's not dead and that he faked his death to get away from crimes he took part in, such as tax evasion and
Hmm.
pump and dump and all kinds of stuff.
He had red in his ledger, so to speak. So there's still a
Hmm.
decent chance that he did die, but it's all led to some speculation, as I don't
Yeah,
want to
we're all
give
speculating here, but
complete proof as to
like,
what
yeah,
happened.
we'll let the listeners come up with their own ideals here, and feel free to share it with us on our YouTube comment section or
SoundCloud comment section or what have you.
exactly. Um, our next story is about Microsoft. Um, this is about the apps. All right, well, the app then was it Microsoft 11
Yeah,
that people are wondering will Microsoft 11 work on my current version? Um, and while there is a lot of tools out there to tell you, oh yeah, you might need to upgrade this and that, I think that you shouldn't worry about any of that yet. This is all still very early in development. They have multiple months to work out some of the bugs or some of the issues that surround it might not work with these parts or might not work on this
hmm
setup. So I think pump the brakes on checking right now. Maybe, I mean, if you want to do it for fun, go ahead, but don't go out and buy new hardware right now. That's especially in this market where everything is overpriced. There's a chip shortage and this and that.
we
I would wait.
we did recently see that the government's actually planning on. They did a $52 billion plan to remedy the shortages, such as those with computer chips.
Oh, really? I haven't heard about that yet. That's exciting news, though. That means some of us might be able to get some new video cards here soon.
Oh, definitely, as well as other sort of tools or just products that could use as
Yeah,
well.
software products.
Yeah,
I'm sure industry will love that because I'm sure that they have a lot of products out there that use chips. So it's a good sign.
to just get things back up and and running, just so that people can have the latest that are into either mining their stuff or just getting something as simple as a smart
As in,
thermostat, a smart speaker,
yeah,
a
or
car,
a new video card. What would they like tablets? Anything that uses chip,
or
really.
even something like a car key nowadays. They need chips, or just cars that have the phone, car phone, and applications within that in their car.
Yeah, cars have a lot more to them than they used to. So they're using chips as well.
Yes,
It'll be fun. We might have to do a podcast on things that have chips that you wouldn't expect. I think that'd be fun, like a smart things episode later on.
smart IoT devices, of course. Yes.
That would be great. Um, but our next story is about a warning from Google on the different uh types of stories. Like if they're constantly changing stories, it'll give you a warning like, hey, this might not be all the information. This might not might not be the full story. So I think that's a good thing overall.
Yeah, because stories will always keep developing, as we've come to know. Just
And I think even I've been subject to this where I've read a story and I've just kind of taken it as the truth without really realizing that this might be a fresh story that doesn't have all the information yet. So I think this just putting that warning out there is kind of good to let users know, hey, we're still the story's still developing. Don't take this with a grain of salt and come back later for some more information, you know?
yeah, the Verge piece went on about a sample search that involved a UFO sighting in Wales back in 2016, which was labeled a quote tabloid story, where Google search liaison in the public mind, Danny Sullivan, came out to say regarding the story that even though some people have come to conclusions about this with only a tiny bit of press coverage on it that day, there's still not a lot about it. And there are people probably still searching for it, and they may be going around social media so you can tell it's starting to trend. And we can also tell that there's not a lot of necessarily great stuff that's out there, but we also think that maybe new stuff will come along. So don't expect fully finalized results on Google, let alone sites where you trust, where even though you're on it a lot, such as Twitter and Snapchat. I wouldn't personally, I don't get my news from Twitter and Snapchat.
I hear that.
It's not fully developed in my mind, but at the same time, mainstream news hasn't been able to cover stuff too well lately, where it's in an odd state of mind right now, which we can go into another podcast talking deeper about how the internet has kind of mangled journalism in some cases, or a lot. But that's kind of how it stands right now, and I think Google's just trying to fix it the way it can while it low-key dodges its antitrust trials.
And I think they're far ahead of a lot of other sources. Like right now, what other source you know of is like, hey, this is subject to change or this isn't all the information. Not a lot of other places would do that.
No,
So they're definitely ahead of the curve.
like it's not like it's not like Bing is gonna have a big piece where they go on I don't know, BBC America or NBC or Fox to say something like, "Hey guys, not everything on the internet's true, remember?" Because I feel like people actually
Yeah.
forgot about that stuff on the internet isn't fully set to be truth all the time, so to speak.
Or it's not the whole story, or it's just a piece of the story, or something like that, where it's the information's still coming in. Um, the next story here is the Dell client platform security update. Um, it exposed multiple vulnerabilities in the BIOS.
Right. So this is actually something that's I took personally, as this was actually a part of what I had to do a part or take part of in my own job to just help fix machines that had these vulnerabilities still in place. Because again, BIOS update is something that people still aren't that familiar with, but essentially BIOS is a basic input output system. It's like an
Hmm.
operating system that's in mind before Windows 10, so to speak, is put on a machine. So it detects stuff such as, for those computer modification people out there, it detects SATA drives as well as just pieces of hardware to make sure that it's working.
Yeah, this is your base software on your hard drive, or on your not on your hard drive, on your motherboard for detecting new added parts and kind of controlling all of that. So it's a very powerful. The BIOS is very powerful for doing a lot of different things. So having a vulnerability in the BIOS is a huge security risk. But while I was reading it, it seemed like you had to have someone on site. There wasn't something that you could do all remotely, right?
No, I had like during my job troubleshooting this week, I had to go to a client site to fix 60 Dell machines.
But I'm saying to like to take advantage of this vulnerability, you had to be on site.
Yeah, which
So, if your area is properly secured, then the risk drastically decreases. But for smaller companies or for places that don't have very secure like sectioned off areas, this is a big vulnerability, especially if someone's like, if you have a painter in there, you don't know, like someone carrying a ladder, could just walk right in. So it's good to patch out those vulnerabilities as soon as possible.
yeah, so if you're concerned about this, and it's a pretty decent concern to be worried about, as cybercrime is rife, as we mentioned last podcast, with an over, I want to say, 150% growth since 2019 in ransomware attacks alone, I believe we said. So if you want to just check your, just as a reminder, if you want to just check your Dell drivers, as again, this is a Dell brand specific issue.
I forgot to mention that. There's a list there. Um, if you go to this, what was the link again?
Well, it's Dell, DELL.com-support. It's a long ass hyperlink, but
Yeah.
essentially,
So
if you want to check if you need the BIOS update, you can go to the site that I'll put in the description on the YouTube video or SoundCloud. Or
yes,
if you want to
there's
just,
a long list there that you guys can look through to see if your system is affected.
right, but if you just want to regularly check updates in general and not just shoot for the BIOS update, because there's still a lot of openings that can be left when you don't update your machine constantly. So if you're an a Dell branded user, I would download Dell Support Assist, as they find the most up-to-date drivers regularly if you just have Dell Support Assist, or you go to support.dell.com to register your device in order to get automatic updates and get notified. Hey, there's like 5 things I gotta download today. I gotta find time today during my work day to during my off time to download those important updates. Because especially when it's important, such as those resided in hardware drivers or drivers for Bluetooth and sound, hackers love getting into Bluetooth sniffing as well as outdated drivers that have
Yes,
exploits.
Bluetooth is especially vulnerable. But speaking of your workday, let's go into the executive order that they put out there recently. This was signed in by the president, right?
Yes.
It has to do with cybersecurity and just better and pushing new standards for IT and software on the federal supply chain.
Yes, and this was a very good announcement to find after the attacks on the gas pipelines or the Colonial Pipeline, as well as the meatpacking plant from Brazil, that America gets a great deal of product from still. So it was again quoted in the hackernews.com, not The Verge. See, like I said, only some of these are from TheVerge.com. But at the hackernews.com, this piece was released around June 14th, but I'll make it brief as I don't really know legalese or executive orderlies, so to speak. So, on a higher level, this executive order includes information sharing requirements, such as a push towards cloud and zero trust architectures. That being not like complete mistrust, but I'm not giving this intern important passwords trust that I don't think he needs, as well as enhancing transparency throughout the software supply chain. So, Mike, what do you think is your takeaway from this executive order going into effect as someone that's
I'm
in
a
the tech space?
I'm a big fan that they're pushing all these ideals and like steps forward. I think I read that they are pushing forward on It was a different article. Was it three-factor authentication?
Yeah, it's three-factor, multi-factor, as well
I
as
think I think that's something that's been lacking in a lot of security spaces. I think like when we were in college, they were literally just implementing three-factor authentication to our student accounts while we were there.
yeah,
And I was surprised to see that as a lot of like games that I play have three-factor authentication methods already implemented, and that was like years ago they implemented those. So I feel like a lot of companies are kind of catching up or behind the times on that. Um, and they like I think especially for supply chain, federal people that work with federal need even higher like standards for this. So I'm glad that they're pushing stuff like that forward, especially a software bill of materials. I think that's a good idea. Those are things that I've been trying to push forward in the tech field when I had a IT job for Kent. Um, just being able to like say this is how we do things. This is what's all included in what we're doing here. Just keeping everybody informed and stuff like that is very important, I think. And I'm glad they're pushing something like this forward. I think it's been a long time coming.
precisely, as this executive order also again secures the supply chain. And I would say this section includes several key components, such as creating criteria for software security evaluation, which is good, while policies are boring, and we like to commonly say in terms of jokes in our circles that, oh, who reads the terms of service? I don't, or whatnot. That's coming to consideration now, especially with big tech as well as other companies exploiting policy these policies that we don't technically read that used to be a joke where it's like I'm not reading that long piece about terms of service just to get this app.
And I think that the biggest problem is people are like, I don't have time for that. And I think they need to be able to provide like not just in words, because what about people that don't have really good vision or are blind or so they need to be able to convey this in other ways, like if they have a video or audio or just the terms of service need to be. I feel like just like oh if they're gonna be terms of service that's like 4 pages long. I feel it feels very scammy. It's like hey no one's gonna read this so let's just try and work in like these kind of under the cuff or like you know what I mean.
The gator under the
So
bed, as
yeah.
Jakey would
So
say.
like sometimes you sit down with people and you like when you're going over like contracts or whatever with people and there are people that will literally go through page by page and explain things and like give you a summary of like this is what this says and I feel that kind of hand holding is kind of needed for terms of service now. Like they need to be able to convey what they're trying to say summed up in and kind of like more transparent is what I'm just trying to say.
Just accountability and whatnot, because we as a people already made a mistake of again trusting big tech back when they were in the quiet before the storm phase, back when me and Mike weren't even born yet, where they just back when Apple was just a couple of guys in the garage. So if you don't
And
know,
I think
yes, they started in the garage, much like some of your bands out
we're
there.
kind of putting our trust in these big companies and like, oh yeah, they have all these supporters. They're someone must read the term. So you're kind of like it's kind of like trust. Like someone else is trusting this company, so they must read the terms of service, and I trust them. And then it's kind of just down the chain where we're just going on whoever we first trusted. We're just signing it down the line. And I mean that might be good for some companies where that we like already trust and have already read terms of service for that we know would never put like stuff in these terms of service um that would go against what we think is right or whatever. But more and more it feels like they're I don't know, like we need to read these, but we can't because they're like 10 pages long. So I think that's a real issue. And if someone honestly, if I was a company, I'd be like, look, we need to make this all audio, or we need to make a summary of this.
Just for lack of a better word, just consolidate and make it more concise
Agreed.
so that clarity is involved, so that you're not in the state that they're in now, where they're finally getting called out by the government. Actually, called out on both sides, actually.
Oh yeah.
Even though there was a case dropped in Florida regarding, I believe, banning people or something on Twitter. They dropped a case regarding that, but I don't know. Florida just likes being Florida sometimes. But I'm going to transfer that to Windows 11
Yeah.
as a
Let's go
whole.
back to Windows and um
Let's go back to Windows and look outside, you know?
yeah. I am excited about this topic with the features and all the compatibility stuff and everything that's coming to the new 11, Windows 11. I'm excited and I'm a little bit scared because there's a lot of great features that I'm seeing, but as of right now, from what I've heard and what I've read, it might not be done so well. Now, it's early on. This is all speculation. Um, but some of the cool features I heard they're doing Android apps where you can just run your Android apps on your PC. Now, just hearing that sounds amazing. I would love that. And like moving forward, like I'm kind of surprised they didn't do this sooner, but moving forward, I'm excited to see this. Like I can play some of my favorite phone games on the computer. I can use apps that I've loved to use in the past, but have ran out of space on my phone or whatever. Just throw them on my PC. There's so many possibilities here, right? But from what
Yeah.
it sounds like is they've partnered up with Amazon. They're like, we're going to use the Amazon store to get these apps on your PC, and it's only compatible with those. Um, I've never been on the Amazon store. I don't know if it includes. I don't. I assume it doesn't have everything that Apple or Google or whatever other store you've used. I'm sure it's not all inclusive. Um, and the installation process seems a little bit janky. You have to have an Amazon account. You have to have a Microsoft account. You have to have this and that, and then it like side loads it from the Amazon store. And I'm like, this needs to be like whatever happened to the design feature of like, the less clicks the better. You know what I mean? The less logins the better. I think if they make it simple, make it easy to use, maybe start incorporating other like the Google store, the Apple store, the like all the other stores that we want to push as many applications from other stores into my PC is what I'm saying. I want access to everything I can or as much as I can um and just have it work. Um
Right. Because it's going to be interesting rollout as my coworker said, who I'm going to keep him anonymous on this. He told me that Windows has a habit of going into a pattern of good to bad rollouts every other time, ever since Windows 2000, which I think lines up with what I've remembered through my time as someone that's 22 years old.
I
He said himself through thumbs up and thumbs downs. He said it was in the pattern of thumbs down, thumbs up. It goes Windows 2000, Windows XP. As like, I mean, 2000 was bad, XP was good. In terms of rollout and release for the public to understand and work into its own OSs and devices and so forth and across their workstations and nodes. So from there, they had a bad release in Vista in 2006, and then a good one in Windows 7, trusty Windows 7, which is still in my school's computer labs. Oh God, and that's over 10 years old. Then there was Windows 8, and that was ditched way fast, like 2-week-old leftovers. That's how bad Windows 8 was in 8.1.
I feel like Windows 8 was made for a tablet, but they're like last minute. It felt like they just threw it onto the PC as well. I'm like, oh, please no. That's kind of how I felt like that was.
Yeah, I feel
Um,
like that was a lot of experimentation, but so forth. Then they had Windows 10 and 10S, which both of those were kind of good, but since they kind of count in the same vein as well as being, quote, Windows 10, the pattern still holds up, like my coworker said. So if the pattern, quote, holds up to what my coworker said, then Windows 11 is going to be a shaky release. But I hope they break the chain
well, I hope
of
they break
events
the
that
chain
started since 2000,
and
as this also includes widgets,
yeah.
desktop widgets.
And see, I was a fan of widgets. Widgets were great. Um, I feel like it was undersold and I don't have myself out on the desktop a lot, so I didn't use them a lot, but I love the idea. But I think Windows 11 has a lot of potential. Um, and if it's implemented correctly, it will do well. But if the implementation is bad, or if the features don't turn out as easy to use or whatever, it will fail. Because there's a lot of great ideas there.
I mean, just to name a few more of them, which could help people like me even in the workforce, such as better virtual desktop support, just to make the process easier to set up virtual desktops, which is vital in my work where I may have to remote into people's computers to solve issues that are too technical for them and that I can't make in time during a busy day, as well as, quote, easier transition from monitor to laptop and multitasking through these things called snap layouts and snap groups that sit at the bottom of your taskbar or the bottom of your desktop screen for those that don't know what taskbar is. And this is all going to be consolidated alongside Xbox tech for better gaming for those of us that like gaming, such as me and Mike here, as
Yeah,
well
big
as
fans.
better Microsoft Teams integration, which, according to cnet.com, where you can look at this piece, includes Teams is getting a facelift and will be integrated directly into the Windows 11 taskbar, making it easier to access and a bit more like Apple's FaceTime, which is a bit worrying in terms of taste of words in comparison, as FaceTime, what was it, just 3 years ago, had issues where people could hear into other people's environments without picking up the phone.
Yeah, it was buggy. um, but I don't know. Teams had a lot of potential, and I like where they're going with it. I think it's promising. Um, it just depends on how people feel about how easily it is to use. Because I think at first when it was made, it was geared toward more of the business. It was geared toward business interactions, and I think they're trying to push it towards the individual and just using it for video calling from person to person, keeping contact with friends and family and all that, which I think is good. But it's all about how adaptable it is, how easy it is to use, and
Usability
uh,
testing, UI,
yeah, they need to
clearance
do a lot of
between
usability testing to
like
make that work.
like just the greater experience usability in terms of can an 18 and an 8-year-old handle this interface the same way an 80-year-old businessman would, or someone in their
Agreed.
40s
I
that's
agreed.
still kind of skeptical of technology, which again, growing scrutiny over technology is growing ever since probably ever since the iPad and iPhone era came and slowed down and became a scene of, oh, look, I'm gonna add another camera to this phone. You guys like cameras, right? Like I don't know, someone that doesn't
I
take
feel like
pictures,
I
it's a
feel
mess.
like overall the ideas are there. Whether they implement them for the common or the everyday user is whether it's going to that's going to be the determinant. It's going to determine how well this release goes.
which will be this upcoming holiday season.
Right, and
Which
they're
before we
saying that
speculated, yeah.
everyone that has Windows 10 is getting Windows 11 for free. So that's good. So these are free features. So some part of me is like, hey, let's just be happy that we're getting these new features. But a small part of me is like worried that the common user's gonna like. I'm hesitant to say that this is gonna be a good release because of the Windows 8 and Windows Vista and all those ones that when they released were um not the transition was slow or the transition was not intuitive. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that is something they need to I would need to know to or we need to know to determine whether, and from what I've seen is I don't think it's going to be that big of a change. So my speculation or my thoughts on it are mainly positive right now.
And then to sum that up, there actually are in this new update, for those of you familiar with the BSOD or the blue screen of death, that comes with many different problems that can come with a PC, especially a Windows PC. It's actually changing to a black screen of death. I don't know the whole metrics on changing colors in terms of error screens.
I don't know why they're doing it. I think it might confuse some people, but I think that um I'm not I mean I think that'll be fine. I think that people get used to it eventually. But I think that why not take this to the next level? Why not give people the option of being able to make it blue, make it green, make it yellow, make it black, make it orange, whatever? Be like, hey, we're changing the screen of death color. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, as The Verge puts it, yeah, yes, guys, we're back on The Verge. The sad face remains, as does the stop code and crash dump report, as the current preview of Windows 11 includes a green, black screen of death, and a color that Microsoft's been using on Windows Insider builds since 2016. But they even aren't sure at The Verge as to why they're changing the color from blue to black, and they're theorizing, and this author of this piece is speculating that it's likely because they're going with a more modernistic approach towards the OS in key areas such as classic parts that have been involved with the Windows interface, such as the File Explorer, which is the little symbol probably at the bottom of your screens. If you're listening to this on a PC, that looks like a yellow vanilla folder with a blue kind of bench shaped like object in front of it, as well as the start menu and now the blue screen of death. As well as more people going to like, well, people like me also that like dark view instead of like the regular view, so it's easier on our eyes. So I wonder if that's part of it, but to just contain eye strain from the whites from the colored nature of the screens being bright always around us every day. But again, that's just a theory, like MatPat says. So transitioning now to software
I hear
after
you.
talking about another software piece or greater OS software.
Yeah. Software. Well, actually, this is a hardware piece, based on a Linus Tech Tip or Linus Tech Tips video. The unconventional PC. I would recommend checking it out. Look it up. It's on YouTube. They're what they're doing is it's a it's a fanless cooler for your CPU. Is what they're testing out in the video, and I just want to have a quick look at a quick conversation about what situations this would be good in And just your thoughts and how you feel about this, Greg. Is this something that you would be putting on your PC at home, or um I don't know. What are your thoughts about this? The fanless cooler, because it really cuts down on noise. It doesn't suck in dust. It's a little bit
Wondering if
pricey though.
it's fully compatible and worth it, as I've seen a lot of innovative moves in computer modifications that have came and went, such as the Origin PC, where a guy tried to input all of the consoles into one giant PC build, which that must have been loud and expensive and overheated like crazy, but that came and went. So I'm curious as to how well this will work as I look back on the video right now. Uh,
I feel like it has some use cases in like where you're trying to keep your noise down to like a low decibels, like if you're recording, or if you have like let's say you don't want to be blowing a bunch of dust around. Let's say you work in a workshop or something like that. You don't want to be sucking dust in your PC, or so it has its uses. I think it's a very niche case. Cooler or a way to replace your fan. So when I first saw it, I'm like, look at this. This is beautiful. It uses just the sheer surface area heat distribution to get all that heat out there and just distribute the heat and keep your CPU as cool as possible. It's fun, it's innovative, but I think it's a very niche situation. And then the next another Linus Tech Tips video is is a video about these Core i9 Extremes that are being sold for a very small amount of money compared to what they were released at, or what they're usually sold at, was just like closer to like $2,000. And Linus found them. I think it was on like
eBay.
eBay or something, or I don't know, some yeah, it was eBay, and he found them for like $200, $400, something like that. And they're like 16 cores, so like these are great if you're like editing or
Yeah,
doing
then
something
that
very
includes
CPU
applications
intensive.
for art or making
Um,
games or coding a lot, especially, as well as coding and doing the art on one same machine. Just animation, video editing,
right.
as well as applications involved in what do you call it? Architecture software such as AutoCAD.
Yeah, so anything that needs rendering. So like these are a steal right now, especially when you got a chip shortage. If you need lots of cores to render your whatever you're rendering, or whatever you're editing, I recommend going to check those out and go and check out the video. It must be a fake, and it's on Linus Tech Tips,
Linus Tech Tips
uh,
on YouTube.
or LTT on YouTube. So go and check those guys out. I'm a big fan of the channel. They have a lot of great stuff. But yeah, good find for anyone that looking for a
This is just a
high
side note,
core
but I like
CPU.
how this chip's called Extreme when a lot of different pieces, including
Yeah.
even as far as involved in chips or just what have you, include a lot of pieces and parts to it, and they just put an adjective at the end of it, such as the G forces that are like, no, no, this one's different.
Yeah.
It's super. It's super, guys. It's like look how good it is. It's super. Or or
I like the supers. I got a
because
I got
that's
a
all good.
GPU
I'm
that has
just
a
finding it
super on
interesting
it.
when adjectives are used a lot. Where it's you find cars where it's like this is the Infinity, or this is the Integra, or this is the what next? This is the Stupendous. This is my el- like this is my elongated Jeep Cherokee.
some some person in the company was having fun. They're like, we gotta put something awesome on this. Come up with a name, and I'm sure they're like,
Super
we're gonna
duper
vote
chip.
or something. I don't know. They had a good time. So let's go ahead and move into security. Our first story today, it has to do with printing. Um, my thoughts on printing are kind of like, let's push away from printing as much as possible. Let's try and use less paper. But this is just a vulnerability that's already out there. So for people that already have a printer and you have to use it for some reason,
Okay,
what does
so
this vulnerability entail?
well, they haven't rated the vulnerability, which is kind of bad on Microsoft's part, given how much the scope of this could be to the people that actually use Windows print spooler servers at companies like companies big and small, and those people reside with it that are even more at risk because they work remotely with this, so they're less in contact with people, but at the same time they're remote networked across multiple machines that are in connection with them. So that's just screaming for worm attacks, as well as buffer overflows and malware and the sort. But this vulnerability allows attackers to
And the
remotely
big
execute code with system level privileges, which is as critical and problematic as you would get with Windows, as it appears in what appears to have been a mistake or miscommunication between researchers and Microsoft. The test code was quickly deleted not before it was already been forked onto GitHub, which is up there with WikiHow and the dark web in terms of spaces that used to be fine but are now used for, let's call it, shady activity. As this was a detailed multiple zero-day vulnerability that was entailed for the Windows print spooler service.
I think I think printers not only need to be phased out for an ecological standpoint, I think there's a lot of vulnerabilities that come with printers. Just having a printer can open you to a lot of different attacks. Having it set up, there's ways to print previous previously printed documents right from the printer. So you don't even have to have vulnerability in your computer. You can go up to the printer and just print previously. In a lot of printers, you just go up and print previous documents. Um, especially in older models. I remember when I worked IT, we had large amounts of issues with older printers and print spoolers. There's all kinds of errors with them, and um, I think just phasing them out is what we need to do as much as possible. Because you don't want the paper trail, you don't want the digital copy on the printer, you don't want just anything that can like can be accessed via the printer is
And
a vulnerability.
vulnerabilities like this go as far back as an infamous example resided in the Stuxnet virus. And this was a virus that got reported as far back as 2012. Remember when we thought the world was going to end in 2012? And that was back when
Uh,
this is how dated it
they got
was.
us, bro.
That was conducted by, quote, Israeli agents using USB sticks. Now, nowadays, it's more possible to do cyber warfare without going up to someone and messing with the machine, but more could be done. All in all, after 9 years of troubleshooting, of course, as this wasn't even in the States, the Stuxnet virus, as it was used to infect a nuclear facility in Iran, which I'll just leave it at that, as you can look up that story on TheVerge.com as well, and it was dated April 12th of 2012. Going forward with security, I also have a piece about our favorite country to talk about, Russia, where the NSA and the FBI revealed hacking methods used by Russian military hackers across the spaces that they've been doing in terms of the military intelligence since mid 2019, according to a joint advisory published by intelligence agencies in the United Kingdom and the US. As these were involved with many threat actors They use different monikers, such as those with Fancy Bear, Sophacy, APT28, and Strontium, just to name a few, in terms of just how to get into machines and conduct how things are done. With APT28 having a track record of leveraging password spray and brute force logging attempts to mess with valid credentials to enable future intrusion operations, which in short essentially means that they're messing with people that are just trying to log in and just trying to brute force either find the passwords or just mess with already consolidated passwords and just stop that completely for the user after so many different attempts done on their end, when in reality it's not. It's them pretending to be someone else, possibly in the States or the UK. And these threat actors will also use different invasion techniques used across the different ventures or theorized adventures that they've been doing, which include routing brute force authentication attempts through many different VPN services that you probably see and advertise online on while using your phone or watching TV, which include Cactus VPN, NordVPN, Proton VPN, Surfshark, and World VPN, if you use any of those. I'm not saying if you use any of those, then you're in trouble, but the VPN services, well, are still very handy for us as they mask IP addresses from having the government see what you're doing. But at the same time, there's other hands to it that other people can use these to just carry out nefarious purposes, so to speak.
That's some good information to have. Let's go ahead and move into our hot tip, our hot security tip of the day. This has to do with Event Viewer and how you can use it to track what's going on your PC. So let's say that you have a PC that's acting differently and you're not sure exactly why, or it's coming up with some kind of weird error. And you have to go into that individual and figure out what's going on. If a viewer is a great way to figure out what's going on that PC, you can do like individual searches for certain types of events and be able to sort those easily and set up custom sorts and filters. So if you guys want to learn more about how to do that, I recommend checking out how to use Windows Event Viewer for security and for a security audit on YouTube. It's a really good video and it kind of goes through some of the stuff I just talked about. It's John Good is a YouTuber that does that. And then for company review today, we have two companies. One of the companies is Taltronics, and me and Greg both own. We both own earbuds and headphones, and we both own a bunch of their stuff. We're big fans of theirs, and one of the big things that drew me to Taltronics was the fact that they have the true wireless earbuds. They're waterproof. They're low latency. They hold a charge really well. I have the Sound Liberty 88s.
The
Greg, what was
slightly
it you said
older
you had
but
again?
still reliable Sound Liberty 53s, as well as their old series of bulky headphones that kind of mimic the Beats headphones and Bose headphones, but instead of being over $100 or even up to $200 in some cases, these were merely less than $40. And you can find them on sale regularly during
Right,
the
yeah,
month as well.
mine were like 60, but I think I checked recently and they're down to like 30, 40, $50 and they
Mm.
work great. So big saver. So if you guys want high quality headphones or earbuds for the low, go
And
ahead
that
and check them
is
out.
at
And
taltronics.com where you can reach them, and that is TAOTRONICS.com. ONICS.com.
And the other company is iFixit. If you guys ever had to repair something and needed some help from YouTube or the internet or whatever, you might have used iFixit. They have a great little toolkit you can use for repairing your electronics and among other things. And I know I personally go check them out once in a while for when I'm repairing something. So they do a great job. So those are our company reviews for the week. And I think that's it for the day, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining me today, Mike. And for you listeners out there, feel free to like, comment, share this podcast with others that you think are into the tech news or just like to be informed about matters that are more important than what's going on in the mainstream news right now. As while the world abides away, we take it on.
Indeed.
And just remember, everyone, to take care of yourselves and feel free to just message out to those that you haven't had a chance to talk to in a while, as sometimes you may just make their day. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us.
And bye.
Bye.